Welcome to Outdoor Adventures with Jayson. Each week I bring the world of hunting, fishing, and conservation to you. From the great hunting and fishing opportunities found in the Americas to the dream safaris located on the dark continent and beyond. I'll introduce you to those who are already out in the field living every outdoor enthusiast's dream, as well as outfitters and gear manufacturers that can make those dreams your reality. Welcome to this week's episode of Outdoor Adventures with Jayson. I'm really excited today. I've got a gentleman on. His name is Mike Fell with Mike Fell Safaris. And I've been wanting to catch up with Mike for quite a while now. If you look him up on Facebook, you'll see just absolutely amazing photography and hunting adventures. And Mike, welcome to the show.
Hi, good morning, Jayson. How are you doing?
Very good, very good. I appreciate you coming on this morning. I guess you've kind of been moving around. You originally from South Africa, lived in Michigan for a number of years, but now you've moved down to Texas. So what brought you down to Texas?
Yeah, so it's all entwined with the safari world. You know, I started as a professional hunter in 1997, and I apprenticed under Danny McCullum Safaris, and we had a concession there that was 9 million acres, and I was hunting that. And then in the off season, I would work in Chad and Central African Republic back in those days for Elaine LaFolle. While on safari with a gentleman from Michigan, we actually got attacked by some rebels, and it was quite a hairy situation. It was a 28-day safari. We managed to get through. It was a group called the Taboo that were trying to get independence from the president, Idris Deby. They'd started a coup, and we were caught up right in the middle of it while we were hunting in the Sahara Desert. Anyway, after getting through all of this gentleman said to me, "Hey, Mike, you need to come to the States. You know, I think this world you're living here is got some dark shadows over it, and you know maybe the States would enjoy having you over there." So he ended up bringing me to and putting me through university in Michigan. He had founded a private university over there, and highly encouraged me to come over, and it was such a good opportunity for me. So that was my roots to go to Michigan. And after I finished university, I did a degree in information technology. I continued doing in the safari world. It's hard to get it out of your blood, but I always kept the base in the States, and Michigan was the place. Recently, I got engaged to a lady who's an anesthesiologist, and she got a job down in Austin. And I've always wanted to live in Texas. It's a very avid outdoor sportsman safari bunch of people down here. So when she got the job, I decided it would be better for my business too, and that's why we moved down to Austin in January, and really, really enjoying it so far.
Oh, I bet. Leaving Michigan in January and coming to Austin in January is like night and day.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. That's right. I was in the snow there. I was like a fish out of water, to say the least. But no, Texas is a lot more like home. Really enjoying the people, enjoying the countryside, and it's been very good for my safari bookings and business too. It's
a very unique state. I've been here about 12 years now, and all sorts of hunters around here, so it'll definitely be beneficial. One thing I wanted to ask about is you're very heavy into photography, and we'll touch on hunting in a little bit, but wanted to ask you about your photography, because if people have an appreciation for animals just in general, Mike's work is amazing. And Mike, tell people how you get some of these, if you're willing to, some of these neat photos of elephants. You've got some of the most incredible elephant photos.
So traditionally, I would go really close to elephants, and oftentimes this is in national parks and what have you, where you don't even have a rifle with you. And I'd get very close, and eventually the elephant would detect me and either be very curious to what I was or charge me. And that's how I got those photos originally. I had a very close shave with an elephant in Amboseli that nearly got me and sort of just scraped by. It got a great picture, but it was a very close incident to getting killed. So I decided I better change it up. And I'm into technology and stuff, so I researched and figured out the best way to get these shots without putting myself or the animal in danger was to use a remote-controlled Beale camera. It's a remote-controlled car that I drive up into the elephants, and they then charge it and rack just as if it was a human, except there's not the danger to myself or to anyone else. So that's how I've been doing it recently. I use a lot of the latest technology. I use a lot of motion detectors, PER sensors that are attached to my Nikon cameras, and then I use a lot of remote-controlled vehicles and stuff like this to get the pictures. It gives a very unique style to the photographs. You know, I always use wide-angle lenses. I'm always right in the animal's breath and from down below. So it personifies the size of these animals and gives them a very unique perspective.
That it does. And I brought that up because I happened to be scrolling through Facebook the other day, and I think you had just posted a video, or it just got brought back up again, on you running that beetle cam into a pride of lions.
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a lot of things you learn when you spend hours and hours with these animals. It gives you a lot of insight. But there's one thing for sure: you always want to face an animal. With a small little beetle cam, you can go into a pride of 10 or 12 lions and take them on, and actually move them backwards, frontal. As soon as you turn around, they will jump on you, and it's the end of the game for you. So one thing for sure, you always want to keep your eye on the animal.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be their snack or anything of that nature. So it's the pictures, your elephant pictures. Well, really, it's all your pictures. But you set out to do something with elephants and photographing elephants in a certain area. Tell the listeners about that.
Yeah, so a lot of my photographs are taken in northern Tanzania and southern Kenya, and so it's a very dry area that's has changed a lot over the last 10 years. There's an influx of people in the area, and the natural wildlife habitat is getting smaller and smaller, and then you've got this large pocket of elephants stuck in it, and every year their landscape dwindling, and so I wanted to photograph them to kind of document what's going on. And I also am trying to photograph all the big 100-pounders that are left there. There's 18 of them that I know about. I've photographed a few of them so far, but my plan is to photograph all the 100-pounders left in that East African pocket, and so that the photographs of these animals will be eternal.
Sure, and I can't imagine there's that many 100-pounders left in all of Africa. So to have a pocket of them is pretty amazing.
No, absolutely. There's a few of them left in the Kruger National Park that everyone knows about, and then Amboseli's got quite a few, and then Sabo's got the largest number of 100-pounders. And then there's a couple in Marsabit too. But no, there's definitely not many of them left. I think I definitely want to try and save them forever by photographing them properly and with this unique perspective.
Well, again, people can go out to Mike Fell Safaris on Facebook, and he's got hundreds of his photographs out there, and they're amazing, and it can lead you to other spots if you see a photograph that you want to buy or anything of that nature. He does have a number of them that are available to be purchased, and I'll have links to that in the show notes. But again, the pictures, whether it be the gorillas, they're just things that are so iconic to Americans and to the world when they think of Africa, that your photographs are just amazing.
My photography too, the other thing I'm trying to do is I'm trying to appeal to the masses, because most people are not that in tune with Africa and the story of Africa. And I think that a lot of hunters are doing the right thing, but they're not broadcasting this tactfully. They're showing pictures of dead animals and trophy animals and stuff like this. And I think that by photographing these animals and appealing to so many people, that as a hunter, I can appeal to them in a much more tactful way and hopefully educate them about the importance of wildlife and the more specifically, the importance of setting value on wildlife through hunting. When I started out hunting at the age of 17, we took over an area that didn't have much wildlife in it. Slowly, through hunting the area and by creating value on the wildlife and by bringing in income for anti-poaching teams and for the communities in the area, we'd make money and give it to them for schools and water pipelines, medical facilities. Bringing in all this income, over time, this area went from having very little wildlife to flourishing and becoming very rich. As a young man, I realized the importance of creating this value, and that this is a model that really works for conservation. Ever since that, that's what I've tried to follow in my career, is going to these places and creating this value on wildlife that then protects creating value by killing or harvesting one animal, then creates value for the many animals to survive. I think that's the most important thing. The anti-hunters just don't seem to get this concept. Africa is a very harsh country. There's a lot of mouths to feed. And unless the animals pay for themselves, they'll be lost forever. 80% of the wildlife is outside of national parks. In places like this, there's lots of the countryside is inhabited by tsetse flies, and it's very remote, it's very expensive to get to. These kind of areas don't appeal to photographic safaris, and so there's absolutely no other form of income besides hunting. You can't farm the land. There's not enough rainfall. Oftentimes the countryside is very rocky, and it doesn't suit farming. It doesn't suit anything else besides hunting. And in these kind of places, it's very important to create this value.
Sure, and one thing I've noticed, and most folks I talk to have said the same thing, is the anti-hunters are very vocal about calling out the things that they don't like. Unlike hunters, you don't see them coming up in mass with money to do anything different, to put
Yeah.
their money where a hunter does. And the reality of hunting is that if you're out there looking for, and some people don't like the use of the word trophy, but if you're looking for a trophy, it's generally an older, past his prime male. So by removing that particular individual from the herd, you're not really hurting the population. You're giving those younger males times to survive, spread their genetics, and keep going. And that's where I think there's a
Exactly.
real major disconnect out there.
Absolutely. That if we, I'm very in tune with lion hunting and wild lion hunting. I'm not pro on this, the canned lion hunting that happens in South Africa. So number one, I want to clarify that I don't support that. I support wild lion hunting, and I've been around it in many West African, Central African, and East African countries. What I've come to realize is how fragile those ecosystems are, and it doesn't take 2 or 3 years to completely decimate them if they're not managed correctly. But at the same time, if you have a non-corrupt, structured safari operation, as a hunting operation in these areas, it's the best possible way to protect them, keep the poachers out, winning the hearts and minds of the local communities by them benefiting from the wildlife and making money from the wildlife that then goes towards education of their kids, gets them water, and increases their lifestyle, and the hunting then becomes the portal for developing these very primitive villages in the middle of nowhere. And it's a model, a business model, a conservation model that works. And so going back to the hunting of lions, if those things don't have a value to these people, they are just looked at as the enemy. I mean, no local community wants to tolerate lions when they eat their cattle and goats and terrorize their children. So if the lions are not bringing in money for these people, they eradicate them with nowadays they have pesticides that's very effectively kills lions in no time at all. So when a pride of lions kills a cow, they'll just put some poison in and kill the whole pride. Within a few months, there will be absolutely no lions left. And this is what people who care about lions don't seem to understand. I see why they have a hard time understanding why someone's prepared to pay so much money to go over and harvest a lion. And they have a hard time with wondering why somebody would want to do that and what kind of ego somebody thinks they're entitled to be able to kill the lion. And I understand those arguments. But at the end of the day, it's in the interest of the species to allow it to be hunted, because without that, the lion will be eradicated. There's so much pressure on them. There's less land available to them. The prey species of the lion is decreased. Lions don't coexist well with humans. There's a lot of they've been prone to a lot of disease, penile AIDS, distemper. There's a lot of pressures on lions. So they absolutely need to be the hunting of it needs to be controlled, but they also need to be creating this value that enables the rest of the population to be safeguarded. In Maasai land, for example, when U.S. Fish and Wildlife stopped the hunting of lions and the allowing of lions to be imported into the States, suddenly all these lions that are around these pastoral Maasai herdsmen are being eradicated, and not with spears anymore. It's using poisons. In just 2 years, I've seen the lion population completely decrease since they're not being hunted anymore. And, when there was hunting, it was very strictly controlled. The lion had to be 6 years or older, and there was strict fines and penalties for deviating from that rule. And it's been proven that at that age, the lion is no longer breeding. He's been removed from the pride. He no longer has kids, no longer has cubs, so there's no infanticide. When another male comes in and kills the cubs. Moreover, the life of a lion is pretty grim, because lions kill lions. When a male lion reaches maturity and he breeds a pride, when other younger coalition groups move in, they'll kill him to take over that pride. Let me tell you, being killed by another group of male lions is not a very nice thing either. So even though hunting might be harsh, but lions killing lions is a pretty harsh phenomenon too. And so this is what I've found over the years, that it's definitely a system that I'm for, and I believe in, that if you care about lions, you should allow the hunting of them.
Yeah, I think the anti-hunters they're a preservationist. They're not a conservationist. And as such, I think a lot of them suffer are under the false illusion of the Africa created by Walt Disney, and that they just think that everybody's there to exist, that there's unlimited amounts of land, and they've never been there. They don't understand what the real dynamics are that are going on. And this creates just such a harsh thing for example, as you just pointed out, when the Fish and Wildlife steps in, the U.S. Fish and Wildlife, the average gun ownership in Africa is not like gun ownership here in the States. You see very few of the locals owning guns. So as you said, instead they resort to poisons and they kill everything. Yes. Plains game, lions, anything that touches what's poisoned dies. And it's a shame.
Exactly. Yeah, it is. It is. It's a real shame to see it.
Now, I want to switch gears for a second because many Americans will go to Africa in the hopes of hunting one or more of the big five. One of them is the Cape buffalo, which is one of the animals I hope to hunt one day. But I read a story, I can't remember where I read it, where you talked about a very close issue you had with a Cape buffalo one time when you were guiding a hunt.
Yes, it was actually last year in August in Tanzania. We were looking for a herd of buffaloes that we had spooked earlier in the day. We knew where they were bedding, and so we wanted to leave them until it cooled down and they started to feed again. And that way we'd be able to have a better chance of looking them over. And so we went into the area where the herd of buffalo were, and we found them. As soon as I saw them, I was in front. We lay down flat on the ground and looked over the herd and didn't see anything good, and they were sort of feeding towards us very peacefully. It hadn't sensed us. The wind was good in our faces. And slowly they started ambering off to the side. I was actually just about to get up and move, and suddenly, from a thick bush on our side, I just heard this bellowing, and it was a buffalo in full charge coming at us. And we'd actually been probably lying there for a couple of minutes, and hadn't noticed him at all because the bush was so thick. He locked in on my client and just came full blast at him. And he had a .375 bolt action. He shot it in the chest, and it didn't affect the buffalo whatsoever. It just came equal speed straight at him. And I couldn't shoot now because there was a bunch of clients behind me and trackers too. So I had to sort of really wait until the very last moment when my shot was clear. And I just put the barrels of my .577 against the buffalo, pulled both triggers, and he literally fell in between my poor client and myself. It was a very, very hairy and close situation.
So was your muzzle right up against the buffalo's head?
Exactly. But fortunately, it wasn't going for me, actually. It was going for my client.
Wow. So,
but no, I've often been in dangerous situations like that, but most times I won't take a client into a very dangerous situation. It'll be me that's in danger. I've never had such a close shave to having a client actually getting hit. The hunt wasn't provoked or anything. That was just a buffalo deciding to take us on. He was particularly cantankerous that day and decided to have a go at us.
Well, and that's what they're known for. And when I read that, a fellow friend, a mutual friend of ours, Matt Bogoslawski, told me I think it was last year or the year before, recently on the podcast, that he took a buffalo at 4 yards that was charging. That would bring me to always be carrying an extra set of clothes because I would need to change my pants after a situation like that.
No, that's right. Those buffalo in Maasai land are particularly dangerous because the vegetation is very thick. So a buffalo definitely has an advantage when his surroundings are thick. Then he can hide and he can take advantage of it. And also, the Maasai and the buffalo are always in competition for the water. And so the buffalo start to have an eternal hate for humans because of the pressure of water. And that's what really makes them, very, very dangerous, especially when it's dry. That's always seems to be when somebody gets hurt.
And they
because
learn.
Those buffalo are not getting the water. Oh, very much so, yeah.
And from what I understand, that's something they don't forget either.
Oh, that's right. And it's also been proven that in times of drought, when there's not much grass in the ground, they'll start eating the leaves of the acacia nilotica. And it's been proven that it makes them a lot more fierce. In fact, the Maasai, before they hunt lions with a spear, they'll brew a tea made from acacia nilotica. It's supposed to make them more fierce, and it's said that it makes the buffalo more fierce too, just like it does the Maasai.
Have you ever tried that?
So I don't know if that's it. I haven't. No, I'm fierce enough. I think I'm fierce enough.
try to bring some of that back from your season this year.
Exactly. We don't really need that, huh? Yeah, no, so it's definitely a place in Maasai land. Whenever I'm hunting it, I always get out of the car with a loaded gun and have a round chambered because you never know what's going to happen there. It's very unpredictable. As I said, the bush is very thick. When something happens, it happens very fast. I was actually hunting in that same area with Jim Shockey 2 years ago. We'd harvested an RX gazelle, and I caped it out. Because it was a very hot day, I decided to take the cape back to camp so that it wouldn't spoil. And we were off road, and I was driving. We got to a dry riverbed. As I drove into the dry riverbed with the Land Cruiser, the trackers started screaming "Mbogo, Mbogo, Mbogo." By the urgency of their voice, you could hear that there was a buffalo charging the vehicle. And so I looked up the river, looked down the river. I didn't see anything, and then I looked in front of me, above the bank, because now we had descended into the riverbed. There was a buffalo coming full blast, and the problem was that the top of the bank and the bonnet, or the front of the car, was at the same level, so the buffalo was going to come straight into my windscreen. So I quickly put the vehicle in reverse so that the buffalo would now have to come and descend down the bank to hit the vehicle, which he did very well. And he hit it with so much velocity, he actually knocked himself out for about 3 seconds, and then he got up and started smashing the car from the front, and he got his head stuck underneath the front of the Land Cruiser and was shaking it all over the place. Incredible how much power they have. And so knowing that this buffalo is definitely going to kill somebody, will cause a lot of damage to the vehicle, we stopped the situation, and shot him. But it was amazing to see how powerful and aggressive those animals can be. And on inspection, that buffalo didn't have anything wrong with him. He was in good health. He was old, but he hadn't been wounded, and there was actually no reason whatsoever for him to just charge the car like that.
He's just having a bad day.
Exactly. They can be very cantankerous and very aggressive, and that's what they're known for.
Out of curiosity, what is the type of rifle that you carry?
I like using a double rifle, and the key to using the double rifle is to wait until the last moment. Where people go wrong with it, they shoot their rounds off too fast, and they don't drop the animal, and then there's no time to reload. So the style when you hunt with a double rifle is when something charges you wait until the very last moment, and then the benefit to it is you have 2 shots. So if you don't manage to stop it with the first round, you still have a second chance to bring him down. I've always used the double. I started my career with a 470 and used it for about 10 years. It worked very well until one day I had a very close shave with a hippopotamus charging me. I shot the thing right between the eyes from about 4 feet away, and it actually didn't kill the hippo. He came through and sort of brushed past me, just missed me, then died, and I realized there wasn't enough shock, so I moved up in caliber to a 577, and that's just been fantastic for me. It's got so much power in those really tight, sticky situations. It's a 750 grain bullet. It definitely earns some respect on both sides of the barrel. I look at it like a life insurance policy. It gives me a lot more confidence in getting in close and going into dangerous situations.
Oh, yeah. That's it. The unfortunate thing is I don't think there's many places in the States here you can actually shoot that thing to practice with it.
They're expensive, too. I think it's like $30 a bullet or something.
But at the range you're shooting, you don't really need to practice at 5 yards.
No, that's right. But the key to, even when you use a large caliber like that, you still have to hit that thing with precision. And that's what you got to remember. I always, like with a charging buffalo, you have to hit it in the brain. If you just shoot it in the chest, it'll often kill it, but it'll still do damage to you before it dies. So you definitely want to make a very precise shot in that close situation. But that being said, it's a big target, and when it's close, it's pretty hard to miss. As long as you have the nerve to wait for that last moment.
And speaking of big targets, not on the dangerous game list, one of the animals that not many people will ever get the opportunity to hunt, but you've been on a number of them, is for Lord Derby eland. And that is an amazing animal. It's
a really fantastic hunt. I'd classify it as one of my favorites. And the reason is some people say you earn a pound of ivory by walking a mile. I think it's the same with elands. For every inch of horn you get, you're going to walk about a mile. You really work hard and walk for those eland. They cover incredible distances every day, and it's pretty normal to walk at least 12 to 30 kilometers after an eland in a single day. And it's in a very hot climate. And what you do is in the early morning, you pick up their tracks at a salt lick, and then you track them and you try to catch up with them. And if you take any break whatsoever, the eland sort of leaves you behind. They kind of walk faster than you walk, so you really got a motor on those tracks to catch up with them. It's a very classical hunt with a lot of tracking technique to be able to excel and be successful. And for that reason, I really, really enjoy it. You seldomly ever just get lucky on an eland. You really got to work hard for it. That's what I love about it. And I've been hunting them. I was in Central African Republic for about 18 years in an amazing place there, in the Chinko, where you could hunt bongo, which is a forest species of triglyphine spiral-horned antelope, and you could hunt the giant eland in the same area. And the diversity in the place was just phenomenal. This was an absolute paradise. There was so much wildlife and so much game, and that eland was one of the big attractions. So we did that for many years, and then unfortunately the political situation in Central Africa went down the tubes about 3 years ago. You had the Lord's Resistance Army move in, and you had a fight, a Muslim-Christian war between the Seleka and the Anti-Balaka, and they're both different rebel groups, and they took out the president, and there was no political stability whatsoever. The areas just really went down the tubes until recently. African Parks has taken over those areas and trying to bring them back to life, but they've met a lot of resistance with all the different rebel groups. One thing I've learned over the years is that one of the worst things for wildlife is political instability, because in those times the locals revert to poaching to feed themselves and their rebel groups. It's very, very detrimental to the wildlife, and that was the case in Central Africa. All these different factions, feeding themselves and the wildlife, and it was not good whatsoever.
What's a trophy Lord Eland Derby weigh?
In Central Africa, I found they were a lot more heavy. I'd say a big one is about 800 kilograms. Yeah, big animal.
Which makes sense for feeding. If you're going to feed a family, a group of soldiers, anything, you pop one of those. It's not long before you're hurting the population dramatically with just indiscriminately shooting those things.
Yeah, exactly. That's right. Recently, I've been doing all my safaris for giant eland in Cameroon, and there's a very healthy population in the north of Cameroon. It's a lot more stable, and I'm having very good success doing that. So for the last sort of 3-4 years, that's where I've been taking all my Lord Derby eland clients and having a great time.
And when do you head over to Africa, Mike?
I'm actually heading to Cameroon on Saturday. I'm going bongo hunting. Then the season in Tanzania starts on the 1st of July, and then I'll be in Tanzania.
And will you be over there through like September, October?
Absolutely. I go all the way until December.
Oh, okay. So you're definitely getting ready to take off.
Oh, yeah, no. I spend this part of the year in the States just doing my marketing and trying to get my bookings going, and then the rest of the year I'll be hunting.
How is it for somebody if they wanted to contact you to book a hunt in those areas? You said it's fairly politically stable, everything. The areas are going to be pretty accommodating and open to most Americans coming in, are they not?
Very much so, yeah. No, in Tanzania, I've got some fantastic concessions. And Tanzania is a very, very politically stable country. And, they're there's 125 designated hunting concessions, and most of them are huge in size. And it's a system that's working very well for the country. So hunting in Tanzania is a very, very lucrative thing for the country and a very good thing for the wildlife. And the system is working well. And again, politically stable. So good environment for potential clients to go to. And then I'm doing a lot in Cameroon too. And Cameroon's a very stable country. And, the hunts work out very well. So at the moment, those are the two countries I'm focusing on.
Oh, fantastic. That's a very neat thing. And Cameroon is still one of those areas you don't think about a lot, because it's just, when you think of Africa, most Americans are going to go off to South Africa for their first trip.
Yeah, sure.
But South Africa is starting to spread out, and I know I'm hearing more and more of the Tanzania, the Namibia, just these countries that a decade ago probably were very off the beaten path are becoming very, very common now.
Yeah, that's right. Cameroon is actually a very wealthy country. They've got a lot of things going well. It's a portal. They've got a huge port system in the capital, Douala. And so there's a lot of import and export, and they have a lot of natural resources. So the country is a lot more wealthy than most people expect, and they have a good infrastructure. As a result, they lay a very good system down for nature conservation and for wildlife. And so they're very pro-hunting, and they've got a good system going there. I'm always amazed in Cameroon how much wildlife there is in all these areas. So, the wildlife's doing very, very well. And the system is definitely working.
Now, you're getting ready to take off, but if somebody wanted to contact you to further discuss hunting in Africa, what is the best way to do that?
So I always carry a Beacon satellite antenna with me, so I always have internet. So the best is to shoot me an email, and my email address is Mike, M-I-K-E, and then Fell, F-E-L-L, and then Safaris, S-A-F-A-R-I-S, at iCloud.com. Shoot me an email, and I'll respond quickly, and I'm always available. Alternatively, give me a call, and I'll call you back on a satellite phone. Just leave me a voicemail at 248-219-3983, and I'll get in touch.
Well, that's awesome. And so if somebody just wanted to say, hey, Mike, I've never been to Africa before, I'd really love to do plains game hunt, you'll set them up with that just as easy as the person that wants to do one of the big five or all of the big five.
Absolutely. I've been doing this for 22 years, so I have a lot of good connections, and I use a lot of different outfitters, so I can hook people up in South Africa or Namibia or Mozambique or anywhere they want to go. And over the years, I know which are the good operators, and I've been to all of these concessions and know the people personally. So I try to put people in, really good areas where I know that they're going to be well taken care of.
Person that wants the very stable, head into South Africa, do Cape Town, do a wine tour on Western South Africa, anything of that nature, you can set that up as well as heading off into the deep bush for a month-long safari.
Exactly. And more now, I'm trying to do that. I'm trying to book more safaris that I can actually do myself. And so I'll set people up with friends of mine that are in the business. And I spend a lot more time doing my bookings now. Less time in the field, I guess, than before. Those days of hunting for 300 days a year doesn't work very well when you've got a fiance. So
no,
I spend a lot more time in the office trying to fix these hunts up now.
I was wondering if does she come over to Africa to spend time with you?
Yeah, she does. She loves it. Yeah, she loves it. I do a lot of photographic stuff for myself, where I'll go on trips with myself to go and photograph specific animals. And on all those photographic trips, I always take her, and she just loves it. So fun. Most people would think that I get enough time in the bush when I have vacation. I go somewhere else, but I actually end up going on safari for myself when I have any free time and trying to do some photography.
Sure. And your family is still in South Africa?
My whole family is still in South Africa. I'm sort of the black sheep in the States now.
Well, you're in a good area for hunting, and you're in a good area to get people over there too. So now, when coming up next year, when you're back stateside, coming back in December, do you hit the shows like the Dallas Safari Club show, the Safari Club International?
Absolutely.
You go to all
absolutely.
those?
I've been doing all those shows for a good 20 years now, and every year I go to them. So they're always it's a great way to network and meet people and take some bookings. So I'm definitely very pro doing those.
People can also, if they're looking at 2018, 19, 20, you can start working with them to book out what they need to do to get set.
Very much so. Yeah, and I definitely like finding people, sort of figuring out their budget and what they're looking for, and then I try to find the right outfitter for that to meet their particular needs. That's what I'm good at, having done it for so long.
And speaking of that, that's actually a good point to bring up. We'll kind of end on this because I want to be respectful of your time. Well, there are some very expensive hunts in Africa, namely some of the big 5 or the big 7, however you want to term that. There's also a lot of very economical hunts for somebody that can rival or beat what a single whitetail here in the States could cost you.
Yeah, absolutely. When Africa always sounds expensive, but the thing is you're actually hunting so many different species. So when you figure out how much a mule deer hunt costs or an elk hunt costs, animal for animal, Africa is often a lot cheaper actually. And as I said, as you mentioned, there's a different budget. You can go very cheap or you can go very expensive, and there's sort of a budget for everybody. There's a lot of different safaris you can do, and I think even for a beginning hunter, there's definitely some affordable safaris to go on too.
Probably fairly safe to say that you can work with 3,000-4,000 up to 300,000-400,000 without any problem.
Absolutely, I would totally agree on that one. Yeah, you can. That's the range, 100%.
When I looked at what I would cost me to hunt an elk in New Mexico, Colorado, the typical what you think of when you think of elk hunting, that cost was going to be the same as what I could fly to Zimbabwe, and I got a hunt where I took 9 animals, plains game, no dangerous game. This was all plains game, and my flight and the shipping of the trophy back for what it would have cost for one elk hunt.
Yeah,
so
right.
I was shocked, and that's why I tell folks, if you've always thought, it's going to cost 6 figures to go to Africa, it doesn't. Contact somebody like Mike, and I think you'll be absolutely surprised at what the cost is to do a life-changing experience. Really going to Africa, the hunting is really, as far as I'm concerned, a secondary part. It's the experience, It's the people, it's the food, it's all of that. It's a life-changing event, and once I went, all I think about is how am I going to get back?
That's true. It's very addictive. I was going to warn your audience that, once you go to Africa, it gets in your blood and it's very hard to stop going. I see these guys going for their first safari and it gets in their blood and they go back every single year, and that's what their light at the end of the tunnel is. That's why they work so hard every year, is to go back to Africa. It's pretty amazing how much that bug gets in you,
Very much so. Well, Mike, I really appreciate your time. For the listeners, I'm going to have Mike's contact information in the show notes. I encourage you. It's guys like Mike that are the real conservationists. They're the ones that are the reason that there's animals in Africa. I'm sure we didn't even touch on anti-poaching work and all the other things that go into a hunting concession. It's not just guys walking out in the field with guns, popping a couple animals and leaving. There's so much behind the scenes work that all these safari operators doing that next year at Dallas Safari Club show, I'll catch up with you again, Mike, And we'll, if you got a chance, we'll do maybe a little bit of talk about the behind the scenes work that goes on, the anti-poaching work.
Yeah, that's the impressive stuff. That's really where we can be proud of being hunters. Because we do so much good for the wildlife and for the anti-poaching and for the communities. It's something that we can all be very proud of. We're not just savage killers that don't care about anything except ourselves. No. We have a very good system set up that works, and that is beneficial to wildlife and to conservation, and that's what it's all about.
Yeah, it's conservation, which I've said before is the wise utilization of resources. We're out there, we're putting boots on the ground, money in the communities, money in people's hands, and it keeps people working, and it puts a value on this animal, which if it's gone, guess what? The animal's gone. That's just as simple a fact as it is. So I appreciate your time, Mike. I hope you have a great time as you wrap everything up here in the States and head back overseas. We look forward to talking to you again when you get back in, I guess it's going to be 7 months or so.
Hey, thanks so much. Thanks for your time and appreciate your support.
And make sure you're carrying an extra set of clothes with you on those next buffalo hunts, because you might need them at shooting them at that range.
I think so. That's right. Hey, thanks so much, and appreciate your time.
Oh, I know. I appreciate it here. The listeners will appreciate it. And again, you have a great afternoon.
Hey, thank you. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Come early spring, it's getting green. Fish are on the bed, and hear those turkeys gobble. It's ringing in my head. The winterized bass boat, here comes another year. Yeah, we command the outdoors round here. Oh, we command the outdoors. Yeah, we command the outdoors. Come summertime, we're feeling fine, fishing on the lake, flipping jigs in Carolina rigs, from early morning till real late. Bonfires on the creek bank, kick back a couple beers. Yeah, we command the outdoors around here. Yeah, we command the outdoors. Yeah, we command the outdoors. Next year's doves until you know winter's on the way. Brushing blinds and deer stands, the fever starts to creep. Fill our freezers full of ducks, lots of tender deer. Yeah, we command the outdoors around here. Yeah, we command the outdoors. Yeah, we command the outdoors. So grab your guns and shells, boys. Put on your camouflage, 'cause we command the outdoors around here. We command the outdoors.